Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a crazy mixed media project on this Artist Loft 18 by 24 inch gallery wrap number 3 canvas. It's going to be a blast. So this is going to be very experimental for me, as always. Never done one of these before. I'm just going to show you how I did it and go from there. So I got this aluminum screening, window screen you can get anywhere. Got me a staple gun. I'm going to staple this to the canvas on the back side, and then we're going to fold it up, wrinkle it up so to speak, give it a little bit of texture, sculpture, staple it all the way around the edges on the back, trim it up, and then we're going to be using gauze and plaster substances. I have some spackling compound and I have some joint compound, so we're going to play with those. So this is a very time-consuming effort, especially just the first time I did it, so I'm going to have to speed through this. So here you can see I have the screen stapled, trimmed, ready to go. I got lots of staples on there, and here's the shape I came up with. You can see the texture. It's pretty basic, pretty simple, but it's the first time, so taking it easy on myself. So here's the pre-mixed vinyl spackling I'll be using. Probably be thinning that out with some water. Now I got two different kinds of gauze. This here is a 3M adhesive gauze, so the back side of it is sticky. So like I said, this is an experiment. I'm going to try this stuff, see if it works. Then I have some regular gauze just for backup or little areas, patching so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to speed this up because I spent days on this thing actually playing with this. So I'm going to speed this up. We're going to ×4 here in just a second, and then I'm going to speed it up to ×8. And I also did not use all the footage that I have because, to be honest with you, we'd be here for a week. So I want to thank you guys for all being here. Hope you learned something. I know I did. It's pretty fun, very challenging. And I'll talk to you in a little bit. so I'm finishing up my gauze here, doing a couple patches. Then it's time to break out the vinyl spackling compound. Okay, so I've mixed some water in with this compound to make it easier to spread. Okay, so this again is what I'm using. Threw some water in there, stirred up real good, and it's nice and creamy. So I'm going to apply that. So I'm just going to apply this, spread it out. I'm going to try a couple different spatulas and spreaders that I have. Get this smoothed out the best I can. That's less sanding, because this is going to have to be sanded down in between layers. So I'm going to be doing 2 or 3 layers and sanding down, starting with like 180 grit to get my ridges off. And then I'm going to go to like 320. And then to like 600 right before I paint it. So here we go, I'm just spreading this out. You can watch, listen to some tunes. I'll get back to you in a few minutes. Alright, so here I have sanded down the first layer. Now I am applying the second layer. Okay, so this is a little bit thicker. And again, like I said, I'm experimenting. I would say that the thinner layers is probably smarter, because this stuff, even though I had it drying pretty slow because it's cool where I'm at, it's still cracked because it's too thick. If it's over like a 1/16 of an inch thick, it will crack as it dries. So you'll have to fill those cracks. But anyway, I'm just going to carry on here. You'll see what I'm doing. I'll get back to you in a couple of minutes. Alright, so I let that dry. You can see there's some cracking in the center. After I sanded it and I dusted it off real good, I blew it with air, but you might not have an air compressor to do that, but that's what I did. I blew the dust off of it. I sanded outside because it is very messy. So I just take it outside, sand it, blow it off, bring it back into the studio. And here I have joint compound that I've thinned out quite a bit, and I actually threw some glue, just your regular general purpose clear glue, that's in that big jug there on the right, in with it. So I took the joint compound, watered it down till it's pretty thin, threw some glue in there. That should slow down the drying and keep it from cracking. That is the plan anyway. So I got thin enough where I can actually apply it with a foam brush, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to seal up my excess material so I don't waste it. I'm going to go back with the thicker stuff that is not watered down and apply it to the back edges of my screen, fill that up so that'll look decent when it's all done. Alright, so I got my last coat of plaster all sanded down here, and then I primed it, okay, real good with some filler primer, and I sanded that down real lightly with some 600 grit sandpaper like I was saying. I'm blowing the dust off. Now I'm going to take my base color, which is going to be a copper, okay, and we're going to start painting this sucker. So I'm starting with the edges. Well, first I would like to say that I'm doing this outside and I have a really strong exhaust fan. I can actually like paint cars out here if I wanted to. You can see the mist is getting pulled away from me. You should be wearing a good mask if you're doing this. I actually like have a breeze going, so it's not as toxic, but I would use a mask if I were you, and I don't mean just a particle mask. You need like a respirator if you're going to be dumping this much paint. So anyway, this paint is not the greatest. I got it at, I don't really want to say, I think I got it at Michael's, but it's very hard to push the button down. But I'm going to give it a shot here. I'm going to speed this up. Like I said, this is just my background, my base color. Here I put a dust mask on just to stop some of the particles, but I'm going in both directions to help with getting rid of the streaks. And then the last coat is more of a, is from a little farther away. It's called a mist coat, and that will even out your metallics and also help get rid of streaks. So the first couple coats you want to just lay some paint on real good. Try to avoid getting streaks. Go back and forth both directions. Okay, so now I let that dry. I'm going back over with some 1000 grit paper, and I'm just barely sanding it. I don't want to go through, otherwise I'll be painting it or having to touch it up. So I got to sand it down. Next step is to clean that off good, and then we're going to do a trick paint job on this. So I'm going to start with just my air gun and blow the dust off. Okay, so this is where the fun comes in. This stuff here I got at a local, you can get it in at any farm and fleet type of place, garden center. I got this at a local garden center, Earl May. It's called urea fertilizer. And I learned this trick from a YouTube video from some folks. I think they're from the Philippines or something. I'm not sure. It's not in English. I just watched what they're doing. So they take this urea fertilizer, you dilute it with water because it's kind of in a pellet or bead consistency when you get it, like some fertilizers, like plant fertilizer. So you got to stir it up real good. I made a big jug of it, so I used 4 cups of the urea fertilizer, 3 pints of water, okay? And then you put in like about 8 or 10 tablespoons, or say like 2 ounces of dish soap. Okay, then you apply it on here nice and heavy, get it on there real good. It feels soapy, but this will start to crystallize as it dries, and you manipulate it by poking it here and there, and that makes the crystals kind of shatter. Okay, so here I'm dumping the excess stuff off. Again, this is the first time I've ever tried this either. So this is an experiment. We'll see what happens, but after it dries, I'm going to show you, once it starts to dry, then you poke it lightly. So I'm just getting off the excess bubbles and such right now. But I will show you here in a second what I'm talking about. As soon as this stuff starts to flash, you'll see the crystals forming. So I'm just taking like a Q-tip and I'm poking it, and I'm spacing it out fairly evenly, and I'm just touching it. All you gotta do is touch it and break the surface of that liquid. Okay, so we're going to zoom down here and see what I'm talking about. You can see as it's drying, you get the crystallization effect. And where I poked it, you'll get like a star-shaped design, like right there. But you can actually see that crystallization forming before your eyes. It's pretty cool. So here it is out in the sun. It's still wet, but it's drying pretty fast, as you can see. Now, I ended up getting an unintended effect that I kind of like. In the valleys of this surface, you can see how it's kind of pooling that liquid, and it gave me like a secondary effect in those valleys that, you know, are pretty cool. It's different. So, after that dries completely, you just take some black spray paint. This is what I'm using here. I got this at Michael's also. I would not use like enamel paint. I would probably stick to something like lacquer, which is what I have here. It's just easier to sand off. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just giving it a mist coat. I'm not trying to get complete coverage by any means. I'm trying to just work a little bit of this black down into the crevices of that crystal pattern. Just try to get a nice even mist coat, And then the next step is lightly sand that off. And you actually don't even have to use sandpaper. You can use like a rag. It comes off pretty easy. And it depends, I think, on the surface, how porous it is, how well that black will stick, how well the urea compound will stick to the canvas or whatever it is you're painting. So again, I'm just doing a mist coat. I let it dry. Again, I got 1000 grit sandpaper and water. Okay? So, just gonna get this nice and wet. And we're just gonna sand the top surface and leave the black down in the texture of the urea. Now, my wife is a horticulturist, and I actually got this urea from her, and I was told that it actually is made from like animal urine. So that's something to keep in mind if you're not wearing gloves. It doesn't bother me too much, but anyway, thought I'd throw that in there. Alright, so I'm just finishing up the sanding. We're going to get her wiped down. So you can just wipe it off with the sponge or whatever. And then I put it back out in the sun so you can take a look at this. Here's the pattern that you get from the crystallization and spraying the black. It's pretty awesome. So this is what it looks like with no varnish. Okay? So I ended up applying a polyurethane clear coat over this to protect it and give it some more depth, and that's what it looks like now. So you can see it's a lot darker, a lot deeper. It is outside, so it's capturing a lot of reflections, but on the wall it's pretty awesome. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please hit the like button for me and subscribe if you haven't. Still trying to get 1,000 subscribers. I only got like 500, so you'd really help me out. Share this with your friends. Okay, I appreciate it. Also got to thank those surf zombies. They are awesome. Yeah, I'm really liking this technique. I'm going to find lots of ways to apply this urea compound paint trick. I'm going to try some plexiglass. I got a lot of ideas. Stay tuned, subscribe, hit that bell so you get my videos and you'll see what I'm up to next. Thanks again, really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.